Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. She'll be back later today, but we're going to talk about Paramount layoffs and how a lot of employees are just taking a buyout rather than go back to the office. Can you imagine that? This is the world we live in now, that people will quit their jobs rather than have to go back to the office. Everybody thinks they should be able to work from home forever. The pandemic ended like 3 years ago. It started like 5 years ago. And everybody thinks that you can just, phone it in forever, right? So we're going to talk about that the problems are going to be self-correcting, I think, with a lot of these companies. And I think, just a very simple back to office policy tends to thin out the herd because there are a lot of people that just do not want to go to work. When we covered the Teen Vogue drama, the Wired drama the other day, one of the biggest complaints of the union was that they had to come back into work. They didn't want to come back into work. They want to, work at home. And people argue that they're more productive at home. I would say certain people are more productive at home. People who have a lot of self-discipline are more productive at home. But it's very tempting, especially if you have a family, to just, fluff it off. Maybe the company gets, 2 hours of work out of an employee because they're spending the other 6 hours that they're supposed to be working doing family stuff, doing house chores, answering the telephone, answering the door, wiping their kids' butt, whatever it is, right? Conjugal visits, whatever it is. And you don't know what that person's doing. Now, really, in that case, you need to be like, look, by the end of the week, you need to have XYZ thing done. But I think a lot of people are finding out that most jobs, honestly, a lot of them need to be done in office, if for no other reason than there needs to be a separation between home and work life. We actually have, I don't know if people know this, but we actually do have a separate office that we go to record videos and do the other, run the other businesses that we run. We don't actually do it out of our house. People think that we do. A lot of YouTubers do, but it's easier for us because I guess you go to work and it feels like you're going to work, right? It feels like you're like, hey, this is the place where I actually get shit done, and there aren't a lot of distractions here. I just got to get shit done and move on. And I think that companies are realizing that. And really, this is about just culling the people that are not going to perform. And Square's doing this now. They're basically getting rid of all their woke employees. And this tends to go hand in hand with the ideology too. This idea that you can get paid a ridiculous amount of money, work 3 or 4 days a week and do that from home. It's just like these companies are like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So let's talk about this. And then we're going to talk about Paramount does have a new head of animation. We were talking about animation the other day, and she's from a toy company. She's from Spin Master. That makes total sense. That totally tracks, right? To have this woman come in from a toy company, because their most profitable properties are toyetic, like, Paw Patrol and some of the other shows that they have on Nickelodeon, SpongeBob and that. And there's definitely a connection. I know animation people don't like to hear it, but there's definitely a connection between shows that are toyetic that can be converted easily into toys, and those that stay on the air for a very long time or get the green light. And they look at that. When they green light a show, they look at, which is why we had all these preschool shows that were getting the green light for a long time, because preschool shows tend to be converted or tend to convert better into toys than, a show geared at 12-year-olds. I'm just saying. So I'm going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You still have time. We haven't closed it yet. If you want to get in on Geeky Sparkles Christmas pins, it's either going to be the end of this week or sometime next week. We're going to close this out, but we do have some extra pins available from the initial order that we placed. So if you guys want to check those out, go out to Kickstarter, and there's all kinds of pins here. Yeah, they're glittery. We've got Space Age Santa. We've got ornaments. We've got Geeky Sparkles herself as a pin, and everybody gets a sticker who orders these. So check it out on Kickstarter. Let's start with this. Coming from Variety. 600 Paramount Skydance employees took severance packages rather than comply with 5-day per week return to office mandate. I cannot believe we live in a world. we live We live in a world. We live in a world where office employees don't think they have to actually go to the office. Now, disclaimer, I've actually telecommuted before. The one job I worked at, and I've talked about this before, I worked in marketing, software, web development, and I was able to telecommute for the last couple of years. I was at that job, but that's because I proved myself first working in office for several years, so they knew they could trust me, right? Plus, I couldn't really get away with much because they had access to my desktop, right? I controlled my computer remotely because we're dealing with government stuff. So I didn't have any of the files, or most of the files were not on my computer, but they could see me moving stuff around on the desktop in the building and all that. So they knew I was working, and I knew that they knew I was working. And I knew that, they had to be able to walk into my office at any point in time and pull up my desktop and see what I was working on. And if they couldn't, then there'd be questions, right? But a lot of people, they just don't want to go back to the office. So this comes from Variety. For hundreds of employees at Paramount Skydance, led by CEO David Ellison, so you know who's responsible for this, taking a voluntary buyout package was preferable to coming back to the office or getting involuntarily terminated. Yeah, I think and I've said this before, if they're doing layoffs and they offer you a buyout, take it, because you're just buying yourself time, right? Take it, take a week or two off, spend with your family, use that money to live off of until you can find something else in this economy, if you can find something else, because all of our jobs next year after the great AI layoff of 2025 is going to come the great China-India hiring spree of 2026. I'm just telling you, that's what it looks like. And this whole thing was by design. Maximum profit, guys. Maximum profit. Anyway, I digress. The company, formed by Skydance Media's takeover of Paramount Global, told employees in early September that all staffers would be expected to work in the office 5 days a week starting January 5th. Oh my God, guys. Those who didn't want to comply with that directive would be able to seek a buyout starting September 15th. So this is how companies are weeding people out. They want you to leave on your own because it makes their job easier. They don't have to push you out the door, right? You're choosing to leave. And sometimes it's worth paying you to leave because we know you're not going to have a position in 6 months, and it's going to get messy if they have to terminate you. So again, if they offer you the buyout, take it, because you're going to be gone one way or the other, right? At least leave with your head held high. I'm just saying. In phase one of the return to office program, employees in Paramount Skydance's LA and New York offices at the VP level and below were offered the option of a voluntary severance package if they're unable or unwilling to return to the office full time. Again, I don't understand why we still have this rule years after the pandemic ended, right? And this is where animation people especially are getting tripped up. They want to work from home, a lot of them. They want paid a ridiculous amount of money and they want to work from home. Approximately 600 employees chose this option. Meanwhile, Ellison and his chief lieutenant president Jeff Shell had signaled that big layoffs were coming down the pike following the Skydance Paramount August 7th deal close. Those who took voluntary buyouts may have been looking to exit the company that way instead of getting pink slipped. Yes, I would absolutely take the buyout because you don't know if you have a job or not. And it might be that you just buy yourself 6 months or a year. The end of October, Paramount Skydance implemented a significant workforce reduction in which about 1,000 employees were laid off. An additional 1,000 layoffs are expected to follow. In total, the layoffs will reduce about 10% of the company's staff. These were difficult but necessary decisions, and we remained deeply grateful for the meaningful contributions of those impacted. About 1/4 of Paramount senior VPs and higher were terminated as part of the layoffs. Wow, quarter of their staff, enabling us to streamline decision-making and reduce the friction that can prevent great ideas from advancing, according to Ellison's letter. Stop greenlighting shit like the Grease prequel, the very diverse Grease prequel in the Midwest in the 1950s or whatever. Is that where Rydell High is? I have no idea where Rydell High is. I'm going to be honest. I don't. But I'm assuming that things weren't as diverse and inclusive as Paramount would lead you to believe in the 1950s. By optimizing our leadership layers and overall talent base, we're now better positioned to align resources with our strategic priorities and invest boldly in areas with greatest long-term potential. Yes, so translation, we're trimming the fat. We're getting rid of the people that cause problems. And part of how we know that they are going to be problem causers is that they will not come into the office to do their damn jobs. So, and also we're going to try to fix the shit that can make money. Star Trek can make money. Star Trek can make lots and lots of money. Star Trek made lots of money for Paramount for many, many years. And they had the wrong people in charge. And it all came off the rails. Same with the animation. They could do some amazing things on Nickelodeon. But no, let's just rerun SpongeBob forever and ever and ever. But we'll talk about that because things are changing over there too. In addition, in announcing Q3 earnings, Paramount said it had divested Televisión Federal in Argentina and is in the processing of divesting in Chile too. All right. So yeah, why would you? That's another 1,600 people. Paramount also increased its expected post-merger cost savings target from $2 billion to at least $3 billion, and said approximately 2/3 of the cost reductions were attributed to non-labor costs. Paramount announced price increases for Paramount Plus streaming plans to go into effect on January 15th, of course. So yeah, they're going to get rid of people. They're going to raise the prices. They're going to try to pivot to profit. They're going to try to make shit that people want to watch. Again, Star Trek most affected. But also Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon has a lot of untapped potential. And they've just been kind of like phoning it in for the past, decade now. Because, well, they have SpongeBob, right? They have SpongeBob. They don't need to make anything new. Just like Cartoon Network has Teen Titans Go. They don't need to make anything new. But Paramount did name Spin Master's Jennifer Dodge as the animation president. So that's interesting. I actually thought they would kind of merge all the animation divisions together. That does not seem to be what's going on. But they brought a toy executive in. That is interesting. That is a very interesting move. Dodge starts on January 5th, when all these other people have to be out of there, and will report to Paramount Pictures co-chairs Dana Goldberg and Josh Greenstein. In her new role, Dodge will oversee all operations of animation from development through release. She'll take over for Ramsey Naito, who exited the top post amid the executive shakeup. She got fired. I guarantee you she got fired. Surrounding the company's $8 billion merger with Skydance. Maybe they wanted her to come into the office to actually do her job. maybe they say, hey, yeah, you're phoning it in there, Ramsey, and we're paying you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year? Yeah, and you're just phoning it in. As part of the transition, Paramount's new chairman and CEO, David Ellison, announced last week he's undertaking a series of staff cuts that are expected to eliminate approximately 2,000 jobs. It is interesting, though. They said Jennifer is an exceptional creative executive and producer with a proven track record of building franchises that connect with global audiences. They said her deep understanding of storytelling, world building, and brand development make her an ideal leader to shape the next era of Paramount animation. We're thrilled to welcome her to the team. Translation. We're not going to greenlight anything that's not going to be toyetic. We're not going to greenlight anything that's not going to translate into merchandise. And that's how it used to be for the most part. I know a lot of animation people get very upset that 80s kids have fond memories of their toy commercial TV shows. But you know what? That shit's still around today. It's still around today. I just saw today that they're going to do Masters of the Universe test screenings. We're still talking about He-Man today. I think we'll be talking about him negatively, I'm sure. I don't think this movie's going to be any good. But who the hell knows? It might be okay. It might be all right. But He-Man's still around. Transformers, still around. G.I. Joe. Barbie. Well, Barbie was a toy first. But you know what I'm saying? Like all these toy shows from the 80s are still around. Is anybody going to give a shit about Steven Universe 20 years from now? Probably not. Let's be honest. They're probably not going to care. So she most recently served as president of Spin Master Entertainment and Consumer Products, where she oversaw the growth, development, production, and distribution of Paw Patrol. Oh, no. Okay, so hold on. Yeah, it's best known for Paw Patrol. Yeah, she helped bring the kid-friendly franchise to the big screen with the company's first feature, Paw Patrol, the movie. She first worked at Spin Master from 2009 to 2015 as a vice president and executive producer, overseeing more than 200 episodes of animation, including Paw Patrol and Little Charmers. Again, these are money-making properties. She was hired at Nickelodeon Preschool as Senior VP of Development, where she spearheaded the creation of original content. Again, content that translates into merchandise. She's going to shepherd the rollout of the new SpongeBob movie, the new Paw Patrol movie, the new Last Airbender movie, and the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem in 2027. Yeah, they had a series, and we talked about that the other day, that they, now a lot of stuff is already in development, but they had a series, they canceled it. Titmouse was going to do a series, and they pulled the plug on it, and then the other guy got fired. I've always believed in the power of animation to inspire, entertain, and unite audiences of all ages. Paramount has a rich legacy of bringing bold, imaginative stories to life, she said. I'm honored to join Dana, Josh, and the entire team as we expand that vision and create the next generation of unforgettable animated films, and also lots of toys and video games and shit. Brand synergy. That's what it's all about, guys. So if you're going to pitch your show to a network, good luck with that. Or if you're going to, you need to have some kind of a toy component. Like, okay, well, this cartoon has these toys that go with it. Oh, look, we've got games that go with it and all this stuff. And that is the thing they look at. Again, not to, beat a dead horse here, but when we pitched to Disney XD, it was about, it's been about 10 years, 12 years maybe. It's been a while. But they wanted to know what the merchandise looked like. They wanted to know what we saw or could see as being merchandise for this particular show. And that's something we had to keep in mind, that you had to sell merch. So yeah, I'm sorry, your Tumblr shipping LGBTQ fanfic that, it's not going to go anywhere. Steven Universe, they tried toys of Steven Universe. Who the fuck wants to buy Greg Universe's van? But they had it. They had a toy of it. McFarlane made toys. They had Greg Universe's van playset. Like, what the hell? And nobody bought them. They went on clearance almost immediately. And I got to wonder how many millions of dollars McFarlane lost. Because they're like, oh, it's Cartoon Network show. We're going to make bank on this. I'm like, yeah, it's being watched by a bunch of, ideologue 23-year-olds, unemployed, or barely employed. They're not buying toys. They definitely don't have kids. They think that toy shows are stupid, but they probably had to do it as part of the deal. Like, well, we got to make toys of this to get our money back. How are we going to get our money back? Well, you're not. You're just doing it because it makes people feel good, and also prom. I don't know. But there we go, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.